Good afternoon, everybody. Big Mike back here with you once again. Welcome back to Big Mike Talks. I know we're a day early, but I feel like I need to get this done now because I'm doing a little pet sitting, so doggy doesn't need my full attention. So I am going to be doing this here today. Hopefully that's alright with you. Going to be covering Monday Night Raw, NWA Power, and AEW Dynamite. I'm going to try to do this a little quicker than usual because it's a lot to get through. So maybe it won't be as involved. So, we'll see where we go from here. So we start off with Monday Night Raw, and it takes place from the world's most famous arena, right in my, I don't want to say backyard, but in the woods behind my backyard. Madison Square Garden. And honestly, it looks beautiful. They don't really do the intro drone shot where they fly into the arena, because there's really not an easy access point through that, unless you're going to go through the top of the arena where the Jumbotron is. But anyway, that's that. We start off with what I thought was going to be a Jey Uso promo. Turns out it's a match. And I thought, wait, who the heck is he facing? Grayson Waller. I completely forgot this match was set up last week. It definitely caught me by surprise. And honestly, this match wasn't bad. Like, it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad because, Jey Uso and Grayson Waller are kind of on the same level wrestling skill-wise. So they worked pretty well. Got a lot of offense in for Jey Uso. Interesting flatliner, which used to be Waller's finisher. The rolling flatliner. Then after a blocked spear, couple of super kicks, and then a finisher spear, your winner is Jey Uso. Austin Theory then gets in the ring after Jey Uso knocks him off the apron. Gets in, attacks Jey from behind. Jey attempts to fight both 8 down, under, off, but the numbers are too much. Jey eventually fights back. Spear to Theory, hits a big Uso splash. And then we get Gunther, who came in from the crowd, locks in the sleeper, and the refs come and break it up. We have seen this set up for this match since Jey won the Royal Rumble. It's time for these two to do something different and move this story along. Because, you got all the attention with the WWE Championship and The Rock. But this doesn't feel like it's getting a lot of love and attention. This feud isn't getting a lot of love and attention. Let's build Jey Uso up. We then get an awesome hype package for Seth Rollins versus CM Punk in the cage later on. Going through pretty much their not entire history, but the history since Punk came back at Survivor Series, which is well over a year now, which is interesting. Then we see Jey Uso. He's back in the nurse's station. That's what I'm going to call it from now on. It's the nurse's station. We've got a doctor bringing him some ice. He's kind of putting it on his side. Then in walks the Alpha Academy. And Otis asks him, "Hey, you good?" Jey turns to him and says, "Yeah, I'm okay." Then they all kind of put their hands on Jey Uso's shoulders, saying, "We got you, man." So, I'll say this. That's a nice little moment. I don't know what Alpha Academy are going to do at WrestleMania, but them kind of inducting Jey Uso as an honorary member could be interesting. I don't know. Maybe they gotta get rid of the Alpha Academy name first and name themselves something else. But, yeah, Jey Uso having a little backup that isn't Samoan, I think could work. And we get a Logan Paul promo, and upon him entering the arena, he turns to one of the fans, clearly a plant, in the crowd, rocking a I Hate Logan Paul t-shirt. Logan turns to him, puts his hands on him, rips it from his body. And that was, I'll admit, that got me. That one got me. So then he gets in the ring, he grabs a microphone, pretty much says, MSG, AJ Styles was supposed to call me out, so I wanted the honor to beat him to the punch. And don't forget, I'm Logan Paul. And I'm thinking of Cody Rhodes, who denied The Rock's offer. And I'm just like those names who transcended wrestling. The Rock, John Cena, etc. I don't remember all the names. I apologize. It took Cena 20 years to realize that nice guys finish last. He's got a point. Then he kind of calls out The Rock, says, Rock, consider my soul up for sale. I'm the talent. I'm why other celebrities are here. And then he sees, I'm going to say it's a director, Schultz. I'm not 100% sure who this guy is. Apparently he's a native New Yorker, So Logan Paul gets out of the ring. He grabs an extra microphone, gives it to Schultz, and asks him, who did you come here to see? So Schultz answers, I came here to see the cage match. I came here to see Punk and Rollins. And nobody's here to see you, Paul. This isn't Cleveland. We came here to see wrestlers like AJ Styles. That gets a big pop. So Logan, he gets a nasty look on his face. Tosses him to ringside. Beats him up a little bit. Gets him in the ring. Looks like he was about to hit a reverse DDT or a scorpion death drop or something. Then AJ Styles music hits. He comes out. He and Logan Paul brawl. Styles hits the phenomenal forearm. Logan Paul, licking his wounds, starts to walk up the ramp. Styles then gets a microphone, says, Logan, you get your ass back here. Come on, Logan, you don't run from opportunities. And this is NYC. We don't back down for a fight. And then Logan kind of looks back, walks off, as AJ Styles and Schultz celebrate. That was an interesting little segment. I was kind of hoping AJ Styles would stay away from Logan Paul, but it does look like we're getting this as a one-on-one for WrestleMania, which, I don't know, could be a good match. We then get the highlights from Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley last week, which was absolutely awesome. Then we get this weird kind of business side where we see TKO Group Holdings, who own the WWE, and they announce a boxing league in conjunction with the Saudi government, which, yeah, won't be watching any of that. And apparently Dana White is going to be in charge, which, I don't know, that's weird. Then we get an interesting history lesson as WWE throughout the night goes through steel cage matches that happened at the Garden. And this first one, it was the first televised cage match. I think it was I forget who was involved. I do apologize. It was from 1988. I'll have to look it up. I do apologize. Then we go to this weird, kind of heatless matchup as Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods of the New Day take on Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio of the LWO. But it's not a normal tag match. It's tornado style. That means no tags. And apparently it's no disqualification, which is new to me for tornado tag. But honestly, this was just action, action, action. One point, Rey Mysterio goes under the ring, grabs a table. But then New Day attack him and put it back under the table, which got a lot of heat. They go at each other throughout the arena. Rey Mysterio hits the 619, but then gets blocked. Kofi gets his knees up on the frog splash. Then as they're all on the outside, we got a masked superstar come out from the crowd, hit a big old super kick, hit a big suplex, toss him back in, and he's like, "Gracias!" So we know what that means. Looks like Chad Gable is back. Or is he? We'll see. So then Unknown Luchador then runs away from security to the back. Then New Day with their backbreaker stomp combo, which that needs a finisher name, to pick up the win. So yeah, we need to get the New Day away from the LWO, and let's get them in the tag team title scene. It's time. War Raiders need some new opponents, and I think heel New Day would be perfect. Next up, we got a little video recap of Finn Balor challenging Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental title, in which Braun pretty much runs up right over Judgment Day. We then get most of Judgment Day in the back, besides Liv, Dom, and Raquel. So it's pretty much just Finn and Carlito. With Finn saying, talking about his Judgment Day's run of bad luck. And then Carlito clearly isn't listening. So he's like, yeah, cool. Then Liv, Dom, and Raquel come in, saying, we got Raquel versus Bayley tonight, and if Raquel wins, she goes after the Women's Intercontinental title. But Dom has some other news. Dom then says, look, I went to Adam Pearce. I got you into the match with Braun Breaker next week for the Intercontinental title. All you gotta do is see Adam Pearce to make it official. Then Finn, with the biggest shit-eating grin on his face, says, thank you. Pretty much brings in for a big old hug. Then Carlito walks in saying, my man. Finn then says, we'll have some beers after this. I'm gonna go. So Finn leaves. Liv then says, are you sure about giving up this opportunity? Dom then says, I believe in Finn. I think he can win. And then Liv says, whatever you say, sweetie. I got a really bad feeling we're about to see the breakup of the New Day, Judgment Day. Or maybe not the full breakup, but I think they're going to kick Finn Balor out, which might be good for him. Judgment Day haven't really been on fire lately, but at least they're doing something. And then we got a solo Cody Rhodes promo. And to all those, brand split. It's WrestleMania season. They do this shit all the time. That's how we got Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle. Which, if you haven't seen that, go give it a watch. Anyway. So Cody then says, I know what we're here to talk about. It's been the talk of the wrestling world. My opponent for WrestleMania, John Cena, who I know isn't here tonight, and because he was told by his inner circle, Travis Scott and The Rock, told him he won't be here. But he will be in Brussels next week. So we got a little advertisement for Cena. Then Cody goes into family mode, saying, my family has had a lot of history with here. Actually, it's about Cena's history at the Garden, including his comeback in the Royal Rumble in 2008. He continues, he can't be here with us tonight because he thought that was the easy decision. And I don't begrudge a legend. Cena is clearly better part-time than a whole lot of us full-timers, which is a little callback to a promo Cena did against Roman Reigns back in the day, which is that's great storytelling right there. Cody continues. Cena then goes up on social media. I know he's watching somewhere. Let's let him hear it. Crowd pretty much boos. Cena sucks. Chance. He continues, I'm going on social media and say you're going to do things that need to be done even though you don't want to. John, you need to sit down, you moron. And while you think this is best for business, there are 17,000 people here tonight. The business has changed. And one stat that will never be is 17. 17 does not happen. And you're going to get a heartbreaking private to beat my opponent. And he realizes I'm the captain now. So a nice fired up promo from Mr. Cody Rhodes. Here's my issue with this. This is the second year in a row Cody Rhodes for WrestleMania is facing a part-timer. And when you have a part-timer versus a full-timer, the full-timer has to carry the feud. Now, obviously, Cena's going to be in Brussels next week, which is interesting. By the way, low note, Raw next week, if you want to watch it live, is going to be up on 3 p.m. Eastern. So, yeah, if you want to watch it live, that's then. But I'm sure the replay will be available soon afterwards. We then get a little card rundown for next week, including the Intercontinental title match. And there's something else I'm forgetting. Anyway, next up is I guess, a number one contenders match for the women's Intercontinental title, as we got Raquel Rodriguez taking on Bayley. And oh boy, was this awkward. Raquel is a talented superstar, but she needs to find her rhythm a little bit. Because it looks like she's going out there and just throwing her body around. Eventually it did pick up because it did look like Bayley was taking control a little. Hit a decent combination of moves a little later on. But eventually falls to the big clothesline, which is reminiscent to Ryback's meat hook, which is saying something. Bayley whiffs on a baseball slide, which you don't see that often. Raquel then picks her up. Looks like she's going to toss her into the ring post. Bayley slides to the back and pushes her into the ring post. Gets her back in. Dom then on the far side of the ring distracts the referee. Liv then goes after Bayley. Bayley fights her off. Then she goes for a dive on her. Raquel catches her. Then hits a body slam into the announcer's table. Raquel gets back in. Bayley beats the 10 count. Eats a big boot and a Tejana bomb to pick up for the win for Raquel. Yeah, definitely an interesting match. Started off a little awkward. Eventually, we did get a little bit more of a rhythm to it. So, I'm not sure where this is going. I don't think Raquel really should win the Women's Intercontinental title, but that's just me. Then we see, looks like coming out of the dressing room, it's Chad Gable. This time, no mask. So the interviewer is accusing him of being the luchador. So Gable then says, "Whoa, what? That wasn't me. It was clearly a fan." And let me tell you, MSG, the security here is pathetic. I'm going to get out of here. And if I'm being honest, then you see in the background, in which the cameraman zooms into it, we have a man, kind of looks like Gable. He has the mask on, being escorted out of the building. Interesting. So, interesting little development. I was kind of hoping Chad Gable would be away for at least another week or so to, maybe get a little bit of a luchador training. But I'd say this is an interesting development. We then get an in-ring Io Sky interview. You can tell English isn't her first language, but I feel like she did very well articulating, where she says, "Thank you all so much. It's a dream to be here as champion. I proved the impossible is possible. Now I'm over the moon as champion going into WrestleMania." Then Michael Cole introduces her opponent, Bianca Belair. She comes out, she does a little jumping, but you can tell she still has thoughts on the Jade Naomi situation, in which I think some of the big reveals aren't done. So Bianca gets in the ring, says, "Io, congratulations for last week. I'm excited for us to go to WrestleMania. And don't worry, I wasn't planning on doing anything out here, but I would like to apologize to Rhea. I am now focused on WrestleMania. This is my brutality. Out comes Rhea Ripley. She pretty much has a microphone in hand. She's testing it out. Then she says, "So, Bianca, what was really the reason? You won the chamber. You didn't need to be out here last week." Bianca answers, "I wanted to help Io because you're scared of me." Rhea then answers, I was out here to handle my business while you handled yours on SmackDown," referencing the Naomi Jade situation. Bianca gets a little teary-eyed, then says, "Really, Rhea? You want to bring that up? Be real for a second. You're mad I clapped for Io. You can't beat Io on your best day, so you blame me." Then they get into a little shouting match. Io comes close. Rhea then pushes Io back. They argue some more. Io tries it again. Bianca pushes her back. Then Io finally comes between them, slaps the taste out of both of their mouths, and walks off. Yeah, that was... Okay, I'm going to say this. If the plan is to do a triple threat, that's a great way to keep everyone looking really good. Because Io now that doesn't look like a third wheel, and we can do an interesting dynamic between all these three. And then we see Punk, we see Rollins, that walk into the ring for their match. And when I saw it was started at 9:30, I'm like, oh, we're about to get a banger. And that we did, because our main event for Monday Night Raw, it's a steel cage match, as it's Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. And oh boy, was that, if I may borrow a term from good old JR, it was a slobber knocker. Like off the bat, they just want to beat the boom out of one another. They're throwing out everything they can just to keep each other down, throwing each other into the cage. Seth with a buckle bomb into the cage, which I did kind of fear for CM Punk for a little while. At one point, we see Punk down. Seth then goes to the door, asks for the referee to open the door. He does. And he invites Punk to exit. And then Punk gives him the old Stone Cold salute. They fight for a bit again. Then it's Punk's turn to do that. Seth flips him off. They go right back at it. They're countering each other's moves left and right. Eventually, Punk hits the goes for the GTS. That gets blocked. Seth hits a leg whip, locks in the STF, which is what beat Punk at Elimination Chamber. Punk breaks out of it, locks in the Anaconda Vice. Seth reaches the ropes, but because it's a cage match, it's no rope break. So he's kind of stuck in there. Seth with an eye rake to Punk. He gets out. Seth with a big stomp, only for a 2. Seth whiffs on a super stomp. Punk with a GTS, only for a 2. Punk then with a stomp, only for a 2 count. Ref then opens the cage door. Punk crawls, hands and knees, going for the escape. But Seth says, "Where are you going? I am not done with you yet." Punk with a big knee, goes for the GTS. Seth blocks it, hits a GTS of his own, goes in for the stomp, only gets a 2. Seth then goes to escape. Then he kind of looks back at Punk. He hits the super stomp. Then he looks to escape. He's about a little halfway out of the ropes. Then we hear a big old pop. No music. And someone drags him out of the ring. So your winner, Seth Rollins. Who's the man who drags him out? It's Roman Reigns. So no music for Roman. He just comes out and starts attacking Seth. Including hitting a big old Superman punch, a spear, hits him with a stomp, his own move, sets him up on the ring steps because he's going to do to him what Seth did to him at the Royal Rumble. But officials come out, stop him. Then Roman looks towards the ring. And who's in the ring, in the cage, checking on CM Punk? The wise man, Paul Heyman. What? So Roman gets in the ring, enters the cage, tosses Punk into the cage a couple times, and hits a big old spear in the middle of the ring. I'll admit, I was not expecting Roman Reigns here. Was the finish a bit predictable? Sure. But, Heyman checking on Punk. That's some interesting storyline development. Are we going to see the wise man turn on his tribal chief? Only time will tell. So, interesting episode of Raw. We are definitely getting some undercard WrestleMania stories going. I do think we need to announce some other WrestleMania matches, though. We are getting close. We are little over a month away, and we got 4 matches announced. So, next up... Excuse me. We've got NWA Power, where we start with a little promo. It's not in the ring. It's in some part of backstage. It's Aaron Stevens, where he announces he has signed a new contract with the NWA, and that William Patrick Corgan gave him a title shot against anyone, anywhere, at any time. So he says, I could start off with the national title, work my way up, or I could go right for the big guns, or I could use it for my guys. BFT come together, look at the ring, and I'm going to reveal my choice later on tonight. So we're going to get a couple more promos like these, where it's kind of on location, which I kind of dig. It's very interesting presentation. I kind of like what NWA is doing. So our first matchup of the evening, and it's a play-in match for the Jack Stane Memorial Tournament, where the winner is the number 1 contender for the World Heavyweight title. So this is the play-in. This is for the number 8 seed to see who goes and faces number 1, who is Thrillbilly Silas Mason. We got Sam Adonis making his return to the NWA, taking on Kobe Carino. And honestly, this dynamic was really, really good. We got the big athletic dude taking on the small, kind of usual high flyer. Really, really good back and forth, including an attempt at an implant buster by Adonis, but Candido blocks it. It's a couple of drop chops, ends up hitting the L driver to win and make it into the tournament. Then, like I said, we got another on-location promo. This time it's Kylie Page, and she's at home, and she's like training in the pool or rehabbing or whatever she's doing. And on the outside of the pool is her and Kenzie's father, along with either it's her brother or her boyfriend or whatever connection this person has. with Kylie's father saying stuff like, "Oh, you gotta get back in a hurry. Your sister can't do this alone." So Kylie's like, "Yeah, I know." She kind of continues her trading. Really, she's just like waiting in the water a little. Then she kind of gets out, asks her significant other for the towel. She wraps herself off. She leans over to her father, who kind of has his head in his hands. She says to him, "Kylie's a big girl. She can handle herself for now. But I will be back to help her." So, yeah, nice little on-location filming. Like I said, this was done really, really well. And hopefully we get some more stuff like this. Next up, speaking of Kenzie Page, she and Big Mama, yes, that is her name, are defending their women's tag team titles against newcomer Misty Marks, who I have never seen wrestle before, and CJ. Good seeing CJ back. She is honestly really underrated. She gets a nice little flurry right at the top of it. Eventually tags in Misty, who hits a big old splash. Eventually Big Mama tags in Kenzie. She goes wild for a little bit, eventually hitting a flapjack, which that was awesome. But then Misty hits a big Meteora, only for a 2. Attempts the moonsault, whiffs, tags in Big Mama, who hits an X Factor for a 2 count. Tags in Kenzie Page, locks in a sleeper hold, but Misty fights out of it. Tags back in Big Mama, hits a big old body slam, tags in Kenzie, who runs wild for a little bit. Tags back in Big Mama, Kenzie hits a cross body, Big Mama hits a knee and then a big clothesline, whiffs on a leg drop. Then Misty Marks and Kenzie Page tag in, hits a couple of shoulder blocks, big old power bomb. Kenzie finishes with a code breaker and then a Kenzie cutter to pick up the win for her team. Yeah, that was a fun little matchup. Hopefully we do get a little bit more of a build for the tag team titles, because they kind of feel a little forgotten. We then get our next big event for NWA coming up. That's the Crockett Cup, which that should be very interesting. Then we get another on-location promo. This time it's the combination of Thrillbilly Silas Mason, Alex Taylor, and then revealed in Ricky Morton. And they're talking about, first, one of the bartenders starts hitting on Thrillbilly Silas Mason, offering a water. I don't know what that's supposed to be. But then Thrillbilly tells her, "I'll stick to the healthy stuff. Get me a beer." Which, that's hilarious. So then Thrillbilly starts shooting some pool. He completely whiffs on his shot. Alex Taylor shoots his shot and was like, damn. So then Taylor asks Thrillbilly, "We should talk about this tournament. Tonight, Kerry has Wrecking Ball." Thrillbilly says, "Yeah, he's a big sack of crap. And while I got a first round bye, as far as I know, I don't got to face anybody. He's got to face Kobe," which, that should be an interesting matchup. Taylor then says, "Alright, sounds like a big good plan. But remember, Kerry's got wrestling in his blood." Thrillbilly then replies, "Look, I know what we signed up for this tournament. The better man is going to win." Then Ricky chimes in, asks, "What the heck are we doing? This is family. We talked about this. 6 versus 6 equals 24. Loser buys the beer. which is great rule. Thrillbilly then kind of goes off saying, you guys understand me more than those old heads on the championship committee. The old days are gone. It's a new world, and there's a new man on top. And I'm going to pull up the ladder with me. So why don't you guys sit down, shut up, and let me make this call. Ricky then replies, boy, you talk too damn much. And they continue with their game. That was a great little segment. It felt a little personal and sowed the seeds of dissent if we get a Southern 6 versus Southern 6 finale, which could be interesting. We then get a fun little Around the Territory segment announcing some upcoming shows. Then we get a normal Kerry Morton promo. He isn't on location. He's in the back, which, fine. We had to have at least one of these. Saying, Wrecking Ball, clearly the bigger they are, the harder they fall. You're going to figure out who I am by the time this night is done. I deliver time and time again. And clearly they don't make them like this anymore. So, interesting self-serving promo as we go into our main event, as it's the official first round matchup in the Jack Stane Memorial Tournament. We got Kerry Morton taking on Wrecking Ball Legursky. And Legursky pretty much outpowers Kerry Morton right at the whip. But Kerry definitely using some cheap shots to win, including some eye rakes. Tries for a big boot. Wrecking Ball catches it. It's a big old military press slam, which that was impressive. Goes for a splash, misses. Kerry with a big rana to the outside. Goes for the dive, gets caught by Wrecking Ball, who slams into the ring post and backdrops him back into the ring. They get back in. Wrecking Ball with a big old crossbody for a 2. Then Kerry fights back, hits a DDT. But then Wrecking Ball with a big splash, a Beal, a hip attack. But then Kerry with a low blow kick, a kiss it goodbye only for a 2. Second kiss it goodbye to pick up the win. So Kerry Morton moving on in the Dane Memorial Cup. Then we get our more of a vignette style promo from Aaron Solo, where he reveals he's targeting Tom Latimer's World Heavyweight title. Then we see a couple other people dressed as BFT, including, I think, Eric Smalls, and then someone else. So does that mean these two are joining BFT? Are we going to see some new members? I'm not sure. Could be interesting. Could also be nothing. But we'll see what happens. So that was NWA Power. It was a nice little follow-up for Looks That Kill. Interested to see where this tournament goes, because I like me a tournament. And on the horizon, we got the Crockett Cup. I cannot wait for that one. So last but not least, we got AEW Dynamite. And we start off with a Kenny Omega promo, in which great to see him back, where he says, this is all still very wild. Was more than happy, saying I was cleared to compete a few months ago. This feels like a dream. We're barely into the new year. I'm cleared, and I have so many people at my back that I thank for being there. But I'm back holding a singles title. There's one more person I have to thank, and you guys would think this is controversial. Thank you, Takeshita. At Revolution, you pushed me harder than I thought possible. But one thing you did, you made the belt truly an international title. That's when I went to Tony Khan, and we came up with this international tournament where they can call themselves the best, legitimately call themselves the best on the planet. I want to face the best, and that's where I bid you adieu. So goodbye and good night. Bang. That is the only catchphrase I really love. So as Kenny Omega's walking up the ring, he has a little face-off with potential opponent Katsuyori Shibata, as he, Hook, and Samoa Joe are coming out for a 6-man tag. They have a little face-off. They get in the ring as the Ops take on Vinny, Eli, and Gabriel, aka a few enhancement talents. And this was the usual Ops beatdown, with each member getting some stuff in, with Shibata getting in, hitting a sleeper, and the PK for an Ops win. So, yeah, that was an interesting opening promo. And I guess, okay opening match. Kind of early for a palate cleanser, but, yeah, I enjoy a good squash match every now and again. Then we head backstage for a Ricochet promo. Where he says, despite what you guys think, even though I lost on Sunday, my goal is still gold. So, the international title looks good on you, Kenny, but it would look even better on my waist. Shibata, I know exactly who you are. I'm giving you the option to give up, to get out while you can, because if you don't, I don't know what I'm going to do. So, an interesting setup for Ricochet versus Shibata. That should be a fun one. Then we get some Revolution highlight packages, which is... AEW are doing really, really good with those video packages. It's interesting. It's cool. Then we get something a little interesting. We have a Swerve Strickland promo. However, it happens right after his match with Ricochet. So it's in the bowels of the arena right after Revolution, where he says, 1 year ago, I made history. I was the first ever African-American world champion. And coming up in Philadelphia, I'm going to do it again. So then this brings in Adam Copeland, who says, notice I didn't lose here tonight. You could be facing me at Dynasty. But if that doesn't happen, you could win and I could face you. Swerve then says, that's exactly how I do it. And then they kind of separate. So that was definitely an interesting little exchange between these two. And then it's announced next week we are getting a street fight between Copeland and Moxley for the AEW World title. While I wasn't hyped for their Revolution match, I'm a teeny tiny bit more hyped for this one because it's more in Moxley's wheelhouse in an Extreme Rules setting. So, we'll see what happens. Next up, we got in the arena, in the bowels of the arena, Jon Moxley promo, where he says, "Who thinks here I got lucky? I called you the great. People have called you the greatest opportunist, but now I'm going to put him on ice. At Revolution, I underestimated Cope, but I did hurt him. But he didn't care. He just kept coming at me. You want to complain about the rules? Take all the rules. Call it a street fight. Call it whatever you want. Take your excuses and throw them away. I underestimated Cope's resolve. It's the reason I'm the champion. I never make the same mistake twice." So, definitely a more focused promo from Jon Moxley. I do appreciate that. I kind of hope Copeland doesn't dethrone Moxley. Either it's got to be Swerve, Ospreay, Hangman. There's a plethora of people who should do it before Copeland. No offense to Copeland. So next up, we got this weird tag team match. I don't think I saw it advertised, but maybe it was, and I just missed it. So we got the combination of Hologram, who is being managed by Harley Graham, which is awesome, as he teams with Powerhouse Hobbs. I thought it was going to be Bandito, at least, but as they take on the team of Brian Cage, and I thought it was going to be Lance Archer, but it's actually Dralistico. And, definitely an interesting combination. Both these combinations kind of remind me of back in the day when Batista and Rey Mysterio teamed together, which that was easily one of my favorite teams. So, to start, they kind of, the heels jumped the baby faces with Brian Cage slamming Powerhouse Hobbs into the barricade, while Dralistico had Hologram in like a camel clutch in the ring. So they started off, and they kind of continue their match from Collision, which was honestly awesome. With Dralistico trying to take off Hologram's mask again. Dralistico tags in Brian Cage, goes for a military press slam. Hologram runs in to the outside. Then, this is crazy. Hologram goes for a dive. Cage catches him immediately in one motion, hits a suplex. Like, that was insane. That was nuts. So, they get back in the ring. Then Dralistico tosses Hologram to the outside. The Beast Mortis, who has been ringside, then starts attacking Hologram. Then Hologram gets in the way. Then Mortis is kind of smitten with her. So kind of a Beauty and the Beast situation going on there. Then Harley Graham gets Hologram back in the ring. Dralistico with a crucifix bomb right into a Spanish fly by Hologram. Tags in Hobbs, who overpowers Dralistico. Then tags in Cage, and then we got the big old meat mountain collision. Just clotheslines, super kicks, power slams, all 9 yards between these guys. Eventually, Dralistico gets tagged in, hits a superplex and a splash for a 2 count, goes for a power slam, but that gets blocked. Eventually, Hobbs does hit the power slam, and then a big clothesline. Hits a big old spine buster, but Cage breaks it up with a crossbody. Dralistico attempts a big splash, but that misses. Combination of chops, elbows, and kicks. Goes for a crossbody from the middle rope, gets caught right into a spine buster for the win for Powerhouse Hobbs and Hologram. I will admit, this was a little kind of messy, but overall, it was a very entertaining matchup. And Dralistico and Hologram, I could watch 100 times and not get bored. Then, post-match, Lance Archer and Mark Davis come out. They kind of talk a little bit with Brian Cage until they all turn to look at Powerhouse Hobbs and Hologram. I'm going to say something a little maybe controversial, but I think Hobbs and Hologram should be a tag team going forward. And I know I want them to be solo stars too. I think their dynamic works, and it could be another Batista-Rey Mysterio situation. So then we go to the back for a Hurt Syndicate interview, where MVP takes the lead. Although Shelton Benjamin at first says, whose ass are we going to kick next? MVP then takes over, says no one works harder, so no one should play harder than the Hurt Syndicate. We've already had our second title defense, but we're here in sunny California. Why don't you guys enjoy your time off, and we'll get to business next week. Also, no gyms. MVP then continues, we're the most dominant group in pro wrestling. They just want to hurt people. So MVP kind of on his own, but we're going to see him a little bit later, which definitely an interesting interaction. Just wait. We then get a video package from the Hollywood ending, which is Timeless Toni Storm versus Mariah May, which, again, beautiful video package that they can use in their history books for years to come. Then we get an on the stage Timeless Toni Storm promo who got a big old pop. Really good reaction. So she starts off with stitches in my lip, staples in my head, and glass in my ass, which got a little chuckle. This tramp is still the champ, and at Revolution, it was my Hollywood ending, and it was well worth it. But now it's time for a new beginning. It's your honor to be AEW Women's Champion. And because this is the most talented locker room in wrestling, our other title is in a briefcase. We have a clear belt collector. But fighting me is like visiting a zoo. I quack like a duck, I look like a giraffe, but I bite like a lion. And I promise you'll never hear me meow because I'm no pussy. That one got me. That line was really good. So she continues, ladies, it's time for you to put your keys in the bowl. Let's get this party started. Because as always, it will be timeless. She hits her pose, her music hits, but then out of the darkness comes Megan Bay to just lay out Toni Storm from behind. Yes, 100 times yes. Megan Bay is like the perfect next opponent for Timeless Toni Storm. And this isn't the last we're going to see of Megan Bay. Just give me a sec. So next up is our first round matchup for the AEW International Title Tournament, as the Beast Mortis takes on a wild card entrant. And the wild card entrant revealed to be Speedball Mike Bailey, one of my favorite wrestlers finally on a big stage, and he definitely got a really good reaction. And he immediately gets in the ring, and he looks so fluid. Oh, he looks so good. Mortis then overpowers Speedball for a little bit. Eventually, Speedball hits his rapid fire kicks, which, that always gets me hyped up. Then hits a shooting star press for a 2 count. Whiffs on the tornado kick, which he's not doing in the corner anymore. It's in the middle of the ring, which is very interesting. Mortis with a big boot to the outside, hits a moonsault, gets him back in. Mortis with an enziguri and a powerbomb, only for... no, that's Mike Bailey for a 2 count. Goes up for the Ultima Weapon, which is a middle rope knee drop, which is insane looking. But he misses. Mortis with a big old Samoan drop for a 2 count. Then we get a superplex attempt. Mortis then gets Mike Bailey up top into a military press position. Hits it off the top rope, which is... that was insane looking. That clearly only gets a 2 count. Mortis attempts his big power bomb, but that gets blocked. Mike Bailey with a roll through, big old kick, a knee drop, and then hits a tornado kick to pick up the win and move to the next round. That was the absolute perfect debut. And throughout the match, you can hear the crowd getting louder. You can hear a speedball, speedball. A little "this is awesome" chant going. People are learning who this guy is. And I'm happy that we're finally figuring this out. Hopefully he gets some really good reactions going down the line, because this guy is great. And to all of you haters saying, who, here's an idea. Instead of talking like an owl, watch the dang program. You don't need to learn his entire history. Watch the show. Anyway, next, we're kind of in the parking lot with a Christian Cage interview. He's surrounded by the patriarchy. So that's Kip Sabian, Nick Wayne, and Mama Wayne. Get better soon, Killswitch. Miss ya, bud. So Cage answers, relating to Mox, I refuse to answer anyone who is that, so why don't you buzz off? So Renee walks off. So this kind of turns more into a promo saying, let me make it clear, I'm still the next world champion, and I want my contract returned to me. I clearly wanted a one-on-one match versus Cope, but the referee made it a triple threat without my consent. And clearly I did not tap out or pass out. Then we hear Nick Wayne chime in, saying, you're clearly making excuses. You're lying to us. If you stuck to the plan, you would be champ right now. So very clearly you failed and you owe us an apology. Cage then takes Nick Wayne by the collar, pushes him into a column off, kind of in the corner, and says to him in a very kind of mad, not mad, I'm disappointed in you voice, saying, who are you to question me? How many world titles have you won in your career? Or your deadbeat loser of a father? You should be thanking me for saving you from mediocrity. And you don't think I'm good enough? I'm going to be the next world champion. And next time we have this little conversation, it will be our last. So Cage walks off. Kip Sabian walks behind him. And then Mama Wang comes in to comfort her son. So it looks like we're heading for a Nick Wayne face turn. As much as I've liked the Patriarchy, they've kind of gone nowhere. So hopefully we'll be seeing something a little bit more out of Nick Wayne in the near future. Then we get something a little bit similar for what we got with Swerve, with Renee trying to interview MJF after his match at Revolution. Instead, we see footage of MJF kind of pissed off. He's talking in the mirror. He then punches the mirror so it shatters. Then he turns, sees the cameras, yells, "Get out! Get out!" and runs at the cameraman. Holy shit, that scared the hell out of me. I didn't know what was going to happen, but jeez. So then we get an MJF promo. He gets to the ring, grabs a microphone, says, "Today I've got a splitting headache. My body hurts like hell. But what hurts more, we all know it. I clearly had that match won, but your coward cowboy cheap-shotted me. And I'll tell you this. They can chant your name all they want. I've thought about it. I'm 10 times smarter than you will ever be. I will get mine. This thing between us, Hangman, it isn't done." And a very surprising turn of events. I thought Hangman would be coming out. Instead, we have MVP coming out. He's on his own. Hurt Syndicate isn't with him. He gets in the ring. MJF says, "MVP?" MVP says, "MJF?" They smile at each other, and they go in for a big hug, which, ooh, that's interesting. Then MVP asked MJF, "How the heck are you doing?" "I'm clearly doing very well, and I'm out here to talk to you, say how proud I am of you. Not some you're not the same 18-year-old kid I met 8 years ago. Would you," he then turns to the crowd, "would you like to hear this story?" "Yeah. Glad to hear it, because I was going to tell you anyway." Great little character moment from MVP. I love stuff like this. Anyway, so he tells a story of when MJF was young. He volunteered to drive MVP to filming a documentary, which, interesting. But that isn't what impressed him. During this drives, he would ask me questions about the wrestling business. Some years later, when he was wrestling for some independent company in Florida, I can tell even back then, he had a huge, what do you kids call it? Aura. Him saying that was hilarious. I'd say, even back then, I knew you'd be a star. And then I told him you'd be a main event world heavyweight champion. And you did it. But what I'm not proud of is what happened at Revolution. What are you doing? You're whining to these people? How are you not hurting people right now? And I know the answer. You've lost your edge. Guys don't respect or fear you anymore. You know who they fear? The Hurt Syndicate. I've helped you long ago. I can help again. MJF then pulls out business card. Oh, haven't seen one of these in a minute. MVP continues, and people now understand where the Hurt Syndicate goes, gold follows. This is an opportunity to change your career, and it's time for us to talk business. MJF then kind of pushes MVP's hand away for a second, says, I'm not the kid I was back then. I don't need your help or advice. I was world champion for 416 days straight. MVP then replies, focus on the word was, and then we'll talk. MVP then offers up the card again. MVP takes it. MVP in the Hurt Syndicate. I like it. I like it a lot. Let's get this going. And honestly, a connection between MVP and MJF, I didn't even think was possible. And now we got that great interaction. That was awesome. That was great. I want to see more stuff like this. So then, next up, we got the Max Caster Open Challenge. He's talking a whole bunch of stuff. And his opponent revealed to be Konosuke Takeshita. And before the bell rings, Max is trying to talk his way out, saying, oh, you're here to invite me to the Don Callis family. I could do so much to help you guys, including doing something you couldn't, Takeshita. Beat Kenny Omega. And that says Takeshita off, hits a roaring elbow immediately, covers him, 1, 2, Takeshita picks him up from the pinfall, slaps him a couple of times, hits the Blazing Fire knee to pick up the win. As much fun as I'm watching these, I think we need a new character development for Maxwell Jacob Bird, Max Caster. He either needs a second or he needs a group. And I know he just got out of the Acclaimed. Or he needs a real feud with Anthony Bowens. Something to get him back on track and not just be a job guy. So then we get a highlight package from the Ring of Honor title match at Revolution's pre-show, where it didn't get underway because Jericho and the Learning Tree beat down Gravity, who I'm so happy he's back. Gravity is such an interesting character. Like the slow motion moonwalking intro. I love that. Then his brother, Bandito, which I kind of forgot they were family for a second, comes in, tries to help him. Jericho and Learning Tree beat him down. Then they remove Gravity's mask. Then Gravity and Bandito's mother and sister come in and protect them, with Jericho standing over them with a baseball bat. So that match never happens, but it's clear character development. So then we see Chris Jericho. He's sitting in some, I guess it's his locker room. He's holding Gravity's mask. He looks kind of like a mob boss. So we get a Chris Jericho promo. He says, Gravity, it's the perfect word. Bandito, you were introduced to our situation. We embarrassed your brother. We made your brother cry. How do you come back from that? You brought this upon yourself, and it's time to stop letting people get comfortable with me. He then crushes the Gravity mask in his hand. This is the character Chris Jericho should have been for the last couple of years. He's finally feeling big, dangerous, important. And I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next. Speaking of next, we got our next matchup of the evening, as it's Willow Nightingale taking on Penelope Ford. And this was a bit of an awkward match at first. Eventually they did get into it, especially with Penelope Ford performing the tarantula hold, which is she had all four of Willow's limbs tied up in the ropes while she was tied up in them. Ford hits a crossbody, only for a 2. Willow fights back with some strikes, hits a big power slam for a 2. Ford with a roll-up try, only for a 2. Willow with a couple elbows. Penelope Ford counters with a super kick. Whiffs on a clothesline. Willow blocks a cutter right into the pounds to pick up the win. And as Willow is celebrating, Penelope Ford attacks Willow Nightingale with some of the weirdest chair shots I think I've ever seen. Chris Statlander comes out to make the save. She starts to help Willow up, but Willow pushes her away, thinking that was Penelope Ford. But then in comes a big old clothesline to Willow from Megan Bay, and an F5 for Statlander. So it looks like this little feud isn't quite over with, which I'm more than fine with. And yeah, we got Megan Bay in a couple of feuds for herself. That's pretty cool. Next, we have a Mercedes Moné interview, although she's got a big old frog in her throat, so she didn't talk that much. Then Renee Paquette introduces Billy Starks to the situation. So she says to Moné, "I've clearly accomplished a lot too in my time. I was the first ROH Women's TV champion. Wrestling is clearly in our lives, and I'm looking to change. So next week, I plan to change into a champion." Moné then kind of laughs into a cough a little bit. Says, "Billy, you're way out of your league. Next week, you're going to find out why there's a price to pay when you mess with Moné." And walks off kind of laughing, coughing. At the pay-per-view, she kind of got kicked in the throat, so that's why she's not talking as much, which is definitely a shame. Then we get an in-ring interview from the Billy Goat, Will Ospreay. And he's all taped up. His head is taped. His ribs have some tape in them. He's limping to the ring. And he's selling the cage match, which is always good. Anyway, then he says, "How's it going? I got 4 stitches in my head. I had no idea how I got this. I think I got stabbed. But ultimately, I came out alive. I was scared for my life, though. I was struggling to keep up with Fletcher, but your support carried me through. Fletcher, next time we meet, I'm clearly here to say I'm the better man. But I also got in a bit of trouble with the wife, because I lied to her. But I clearly had to lie. So the day before the match, she says to me, 'Don't do something stupid off the top of the cage.' I said to her, 'I won't do it.' And realizing was bad standing, it was bad while I was standing up there at the top of the cage with everyone with their phones out looking at me. After that match, I missed a few calls from my wife. Initially, she was being nice where I was spent. She then yelled at me, 'You jumped off the cage!' But because I'm so charming, I charmed my way out of this situation. But this is a very good point. I want to be the guy. But to be the guy, I need something around my waist. Cope has his match next week. Swerve has his match at Dynasty. So when do I call my shot? When does it matter the most? Crowd starts chanting, all in, all in. He then looks at the all in poster, turns back around, says, I set myself a mission. I want a main event all in. And to get there, I'm entering myself into the Owen Hart tournament. Cope, Swerve, if you're holding the title after your matches, I cannot wait for our matches. But if it's Moxley, I come with a warning. An assassin is coming for the throne. I want to be world champion. So, clear-cut goal for Mr. Will Ospreay. And honestly, fingers crossed we get Will Ospreay versus Mike Bailey on AEW sometime soon. So next we get a backstage Jay White interview as he's praising Ospreay, saying as he's on another level. Maybe one day we'll see each other in the ring sometime soon. Yes, please. Jay White then continues, I've been begging for more. You've been kept away from me. The interviewer then asks about the briefcase shot to Cope at the pay-per-view. Jay White then says, are you asking me or are you accusing me? Did I hit Cope on purpose? I'm going to throw it to Fresno. Crowd says no. The answer is clearly no. I had Cope's back and I failed. My redemption Cope's redemption comes next week. It's going to take everything to beat Mox. But to see anyone take my place as number one contender is a mockery. So, nice little promo from Jay White. It's clear he doesn't want to be second fiddle anymore. Hopefully we get him a number one contendership soon. So next we get an attempt at a Hangman Adam Page interview. But then MJF kind of bumps him on the shoulder. They have a little face-off. Interviewer runs off. Hangman then says, if you forgot, you tried to light me on fire. And I don't believe you would do it. MJF then replies, someone left a mess. You care, this is actually still Hangman. It's clear you care what people think. MJF replies, you think I was bluffing? Well, I call your bluff, Mr. Page. And while you're feeling on top of the world right now, I'm going to go on and take your title, take the AEW title, and I'll go down as the GOAT while you scratch and claw back to the top, only to crash back down to the bottom. And when you flip your mask off, you think you don't deserve their love and adulation. You're never going to make them proud. And while I win the title again and again, laughing the entire time as you fall. MJF walks off. Hangman then says, we'll see. So this situation is clearly not done. And we have a couple of goals for these two guys now, which is great. We now move to our main event of the evening, as it's for, once again, the International Championship Tournament, as it's freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy taking on the Alchemax, I can't even say this word, Henchazero of CMLL. And this match was absolutely wild. Start off with some basic arm wringers and lockups. Eventually, Orange Cassidy does get into it. Eventually, when he puts his hand in his pockets, does a no-handed dive, which was wild. Cassidy goes for another dive attempt, but Head Shazero locks in a sleeper hold in the ropes, but eventually he lets go. Cassidy attempts a big boot, gets caught. Head Shazero with a leg whip. So they get back in the ring. Cassidy goes for his carousel DDT, but Head Shazero catches him. It's an airplane spin backbreaker, which is the first time I think I've seen that. That only gets a 2 count. Cassidy eventually breaks out the Stun Dog Millionaire. Hits the carousel DDT. But after an attempt at the Orange Punch, Cassidy's knees buckle. So Head Shazero takes advantage, hitting a couple of elbow drops right into an armbar, but then Cassidy fights out of it, hitting a backdrop. Eventually, Head Shazero locks in a cattle mutilation. Cassidy gets in the ropes. Head Shazero tries for a suplex. That gets blocked. Cassidy attempts a stunner. That gets caught into a roll through. Cassidy with a roll up to pick up the win. So, nice little different kind of win for Cassidy. Post-match, Speedball Mike Bailey comes out and just points at the ring to Orange Cassidy. That 4-way next week is going to be something else, man. I can't wait to see who qualifies on Collision. That should be a fun couple of matchups. And, that's going to do it for me. I hope you all enjoyed the show. And coming up on Monday, be covering SmackDown and Collision. Maybe give some results for some pay-per-views. We got some Maple Leaf Pro coming. We got some TNA coming. A lot of really good wrestling coming out this week. Hopefully you check out something. And until next time, happy wrestling, everybody. Peace.